What's wrong with your face? Who did this to you? I fell. The morning sun barely touched the floors of the mansion when Alessandro Chun descended the grand staircase. His footsteps were silent, calculated, like everything else about him. At 34, he built an empire that made men twice his age bow their heads in respect and fear. His tailored black suit held no creases. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and his expression revealed nothing. But something was off today. Maya stood in the corner of the main hall, her back turned, shoulders hunched as she arranged fresh flowers in the crystal vase. Her usual grace was missing, replaced by stiff, hurried movements. Maya, his voice cut through the silence like a blade. She flinched. In the 6 months she'd worked here, he'd never seen her do that. "Good morning, Mr. Chun," she said without turning around. Her voice sounded strained, tight. Alessandro's eyes narrowed. He crossed the room in 5 long strides and positioned himself where he could see her face. That's when he saw it. A dark crimson stain marked her left cheekbone, partially hidden beneath makeup that hadn't quite done its job. Her bottom lip was swollen on one side, and when she finally met his gaze, he saw something that made his blood run cold. "What happened to your face?" "I fell. Last night. It's nothing really." She turned back to the flowers, her hands trembling so badly that a white lily slipped from her fingers and tumbled to the floor. Alessandro didn't move. He'd interrogated enough people to know a lie when he heard one. But this wasn't business. This was Maya, the woman who hummed old soul songs while she cleaned, who left sticky notes with terrible jokes on his coffee maker, who somehow made this cold mansion feel less empty. "Look at me." It wasn't a request. Maya's hand stilled. Slowly, she turned and he saw the full extent of it. Not just the blood stain, but the finger-shaped bruises peeking out from beneath her collar. The way she held her left arm close to her body. The defeat in her brown eyes that no amount of pride could hide. "Everyone out," he said quietly. His 3 guards positioned at various points in the room exchanged glances but obeyed without question. The heavy doors closed with a soft thud. "Mr. Chun, please. I need this job. I promise it won't happen again. I'll cover it better." Maya's lips pressed together. A single tear escaped down her cheek, and she wiped it away quickly as if crying was something shameful. "It doesn't matter. It matters to me." Those 4 words hung in the air between them. Alessandro hadn't meant to say them with such intensity, but there they were, raw and honest. Maya's shoulders began to shake. Then like a dam breaking, everything poured out. "His name is Derek. We've been together for 2 years. He wasn't always like this. I swear. After my ex-husband left, Derek helped with bills with my daughter. But then he started controlling everything. Where I go, who I talk to, how I spend money. Last night, I told him I got a raise here. And he said I was probably sleeping with you to get it when I defended myself." Her voice cracked. "I have an 8-year-old daughter, Mr. Chun. He knows where she goes to school. He said if I ever left him or told anyone, he'd make sure I never saw her again." Alessandro's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. A cold rage settled over him. The kind that made him dangerous. The kind that had built his reputation. But when he spoke, his voice was surprisingly gentle. "Does Sophia know? I always make sure she's asleep before things get bad. Where is she now?" "My neighbor watches her in the mornings before school." Alessandro pulled out his phone and made a call. "Vincent, send 2 men, too." He glanced at Maya, who whispered an address. "Send 2 of our best discreet protection detail for an 8-year-old girl and her guardian. No one approaches them without clearance." Maya's eyes went wide. "Mr. Chun, you don't have to. What's Derek's full name and address? I can't ask you to get involved in my mess. You've been nothing but kind to me, and I won't drag you into Maya." He stepped closer, and she instinctively stepped back until her spine hit the wall. But he didn't crowd her. Instead, he maintained just enough distance to feel safe, while making sure she heard every word. "I'm already involved. The moment you walked through my door with his marks on you, I became involved. Now give me his information, or I'll find it myself. Your choice is only whether you help me or not." She told him everything. Derek Thompson lived in a rundown apartment complex on the east side, the kind of place where people minded their business because asking questions got you hurt. He was a shift manager at a warehouse, played cards on weekends, and had a reputation for talking big. When Alessandro and 2 of his men arrived at 8 p.m. that evening, Derek was home. They could hear his television through the thin walls. Alessandro knocked once, twice. The door swung open, and Derek stood there in a stained tank top and basketball shorts, a beer in his hand. He was 6 feet 2 inches, broad-shouldered with the kind of build that intimidated normal people. Yeah, the hell do you want? Alessandro smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Derek Thompson, we need to talk about Maya. Derek's expression changed from irritation to recognition to fear in the span of 3 seconds. Everyone in this city knew Alessandro Chen's face, even if they'd never met him. Look, man, I don't want any trouble. Whatever she told you. She told me you put your hands on her multiple times. She told me you threatened her daughter. Alessandro's voice was conversational, almost friendly. That's what made it terrifying. Now, I'm going to give you 2 options, and I suggest you choose carefully. Derek tried to puff up his chest. You can't come here threatening me. I got rights. I'll call the cops. One of Alessandro's men chuckled darkly. Option 1. Alessandro continued as if Derek hadn't spoken. You never speak to Maya again. Forget she exists. If I hear you've even driven down her street, what happens next will be the last mistake you ever make. And option 2. Alessandro's smile widened. There is no option 2. I just wanted you to feel like you had a choice. Derek's hand tightened around his beer bottle. For a moment, it looked like he might try something stupid. Then, reality set in. This wasn't some woman he could bully. This was Alessandro Chen, and the 2 men flanking him looked like they ate guys like Derek for breakfast. Fine, whatever. She wasn't that good anyway. Alessandro's hand shot out faster than Derek could blink, gripping his throat and slamming him against the door frame. The beer bottle shattered on the ground. We have the taken. Let me be crystal clear, Alessandro said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. If you ever speak about her like that again, I won't send warnings. I won't have conversations. I'll erase you from existence so thoroughly that people will forget you ever lived. Do we understand each other? Derek nodded frantically, his face turning red. Alessandro released him and stepped back, smoothing his jacket as if nothing had happened. Enjoy your evening, Derek. 3 hours later, Alessandro pulled up to Maya's small apartment. The lights were on in the second-floor unit. He'd texted her that he was coming. Didn't want to frighten her. She opened the door before he could knock. Still in her work clothes, her face scrubbed clean of makeup, the injuries looked worse without it. Did you? He won't bother you again. I made sure of it. Maya's hand flew to her mouth and fresh tears spilled over. But these were different. These were relief. Thank you, God. Thank you so much. I don't know how I can ever repay you. Don't need to repay me, but we need to talk about your living situation. This apartment complex doesn't have security, and your locks are substandard. I have a property about 10 minutes from here. 3 bedrooms, gated community, security system. It's empty. You and Sophia should move there. Mr. Chun, I can't accept that. I can't afford. It's part of your employment package. Consider it a housing benefit. Maya laughed through her tears, a sound that hit him square in the chest. You're making that up completely, but you'll still accept it because you're smart enough to know it's the right choice for Sophia. Before Maya could respond, a small voice came from behind her. Mama, who's at the door? A little girl appeared clutching a stuffed rabbit. She had her mother's eyes and a halo of curly hair pulled into 2 puffs. She looked at Alessandro with open curiosity rather than fear. Sophia, baby, this is Mr. Chun. He's Mama's boss. You're really tall, Sophia observed. Alessandro found himself crouching down to her level, something he'd never done for anyone. You're very observant. What's that mean? It means you notice things. That's a good quality. Sophia beamed. Mama says I notice too much sometimes. Your mama is very smart. Are you the reason those nice men were at my school today? Mrs. Patterson said they were making sure I was safe. Alessandro glanced up at Maya, who was watching them with an expression he couldn't quite read. I wanted to make sure you and your mama are always safe. Like a superhero, something like that. Sophia considered this seriously. You can stay for dinner if you want. We're having spaghetti. Mama makes the best spaghetti. And that's how Alessandro Chun, one of the most feared men in the city, found himself sitting at a cramped kitchen table eating slightly overcooked spaghetti while an 8-year-old told him about her science project on butterflies. The next 3 weeks passed in a strange new rhythm. Maya and Sophia moved into the apartment Alessandro provided. It was in a safe neighborhood with good schools. And for the first time in years, Maya slept through the night without jumping at every sound. She still worked at the mansion. But things were different now. Alessandro found excuses to be wherever she was working. They'd talk, not boss and employee, but two people discovering each other. One night, long after everyone else had left, Maya found Alessandro in his study, staring at an old photograph. "You're still here." "Ah," he said without looking up. "I could say the same to you." He turned the photograph toward her. It showed a young Korean woman with kind eyes and a shy smile. "My mother," he explained. "She died when I was 12. Maya moved closer, studying the image. "She was beautiful. She was also trapped in a marriage with a violent man. My father was a powerful businessman, well-respected. No one knew what happened behind closed doors. She stayed because she thought she was protecting me. That leaving would make things worse." His voice was hollow. "She was wrong. He killed her in a drunken rage one night. Made it look like an accident. Alessandro." It was the first time she'd used his first name. "When I saw you that morning with blood on your face, all I could see was her. All those times she tried to hide the bruises, the split lips, the broken ribs. I swore after she died that I would never let another woman suffer like that. Not if I had the power to stop it." Maya's hand found his, their fingers intertwining naturally. "Your mother would be proud of the man you became. Would she? I've done terrible things. Maya built an empire on fear and blood. You also protected a stranger and her daughter when you didn't have to. You gave us safety when we had none." That's what she'd see. They stood there in the dim light of the study, hands clasped, both understanding that something fundamental had shifted between them. "I'm falling for you," Alessandro said quietly. "I shouldn't be. You work for me. You're dealing with trauma. The timing is terrible, but I can't seem to stop it." Maya's breath caught. "I feel it too. You scare me, but not in the way Derek did. You scare me because I want to trust you, and trust has only hurt me before. That's what scares me most." Alessandro turned to face her fully, his free hand coming up to cup her cheek, careful of the fading bruises. "Then let's be scared together." When he kissed her, it was soft, tentative, asking permission with every second. Maya melted into it, her hands gripping his shirt as if he might disappear. But happiness in Alessandro's world was never simple. For weeks after their first kiss, Derek resurfaced. He'd been drinking with his friends, working up courage and rage in equal measure. He'd been humiliated, threatened, forced to slink away like a coward. His pride couldn't take it, so he waited outside Sophia's school with two of his buddies, planning to grab the girl and force Maya to come back to him. They never got close. Alessandro's security detail saw them the moment they approached the school grounds. Within minutes, Derek and his friends were restrained. Sophia was whisked away to safety, and Alessandro received a phone call that made his blood turn to ice. He found Maya at the school holding a sobbing Sophia, both of them surrounded by his men. He tried to take her. Maya gasped when she saw him. "He actually tried to take my baby." Alessandro knelt in front of them, his usual composure cracking. "She's safe. You're both safe. I promise you this ends tonight." "Where is he being held?" "Waiting for me." Maya grabbed his arm. "Don't kill him, please. I don't want that on your conscience because of me. He tried to kidnap your daughter." "I know, but there are other ways. Legal ways. Your connections can make sure he goes to prison, right? Not just a slap on the wrist." Alessandro studied her face, seeing the strength beneath the fear. She wasn't asking for him to let Derek go. She was asking him to be better than his worst instincts. "For you," he said finally. "Only for you." Derek Thompson was arrested that night. With Alessandro's connections and resources, the DA had an airtight case within 48 hours. Assault, attempted kidnapping, stalking, violation of a restraining order. Alessandro had helped Maya file. Derek would spend the next 8 years behind bars. But the incident had consequences beyond Derek's fate. Vincent, Alessandro's second-in-command and cousin, confronted him 2 days later in his office. "The men are talking," Vincent said without preamble. "About you and the maid. Her name is Maya. Her name doesn't matter. What matters is that you're compromised, making decisions based on emotion rather than logic, putting organization resources toward a personal matter." Alessandro's eyes went cold. "Are you questioning my leadership?" "I'm questioning your judgment. This woman and her child have made you soft. What happens when our enemies realize that? When they see you have a weakness they can exploit, then I'll handle it like I've handled everything else by going to war over a woman." "Alessandro, think about what you're doing. She's not one of us. She doesn't understand this life. And that little girl, careful," Alessandro warned, his voice dropping dangerously low. Be very careful about what you say next. Vincent ran a hand through his hair in frustration. I'm trying to protect you. Protect what we've built. Your father would never have. My father was a monster who beat my mother to death. If you're using him as a moral compass, we have bigger problems than my relationship with Maya. The room fell silent. Vincent's jaw worked, but no words came out. Vincent's withers a love. I make my own choices. Alessandro continued. I always have. Maya and Sophia are under my protection, and they will remain so. Anyone who has a problem with that can leave. That includes you, cousin. Vincent stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I hope you know what you're doing. So do I. 6 months later, everything had changed. Maya no longer worked as a maid. Alessandro had discovered she had a business degree she'd never been able to use. So he put her in charge of managing his legitimate enterprises, restaurants, real estate, import businesses. She was brilliant at it, bringing an organization and attention to detail that impressed even his most skeptical associates. Sophia thrived. She called Alessandro Uncle Alessandro and had started taking taekwondo lessons that he insisted on personally supervising. He was surprisingly patient with her, never raising his voice, always encouraging. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, the three of them were at the park. Sophia was on the swings, pumping her legs and laughing as she went higher and higher. She's fearless, Alessandro observed, watching her. She gets that from you, Maya said, leaning into his side. From me. You taught her it's okay to be strong, that she doesn't have to make herself small to make others comfortable. That's a gift. Alessandro was quiet for a moment. Then he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Maya's breath stopped. Mom, I know it's fast, he said, turning to face her fully. I know we've been through hell to get here. I know my world is dangerous and complicated and not what you probably imagined for yourself. He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant diamond ring. But I also know that I've never felt more human than I do when I'm with you and Sophia. You make me want to be better. You make me believe I can be better. Tears streamed down Maya's face. Maya Rodriguez, will you marry me? Yes, she whispered, then louder. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. And when he kissed her, Sophia's delighted shriek carried across the playground. Mama's getting married. Uncle Alessandro is going to be my uncle for real. They laughed, pulling Sophia into their embrace. The three of them forming a unit that 6 months ago would have seemed impossible. That night, after Sophia was asleep, Maya and Alessandro sat on the balcony of the mansion under the stars. Are you scared? He asked. Terrified, she admitted. But not of you. I'm scared I'll wake up and this will all be a dream. That I'll be back in that old apartment, afraid and alone. You're never going to be alone again. That's my promise to you. You've already kept so many promises. Then what's one more? I love you, Alessandro-chan. I love you, Maya Rodriguez. Soon to be Maya-chan. They stayed there until dawn broke over the city. Two people who'd found each other in the darkest circumstances and chosen to build something beautiful from the ashes. Because sometimes the person who seems most dangerous is actually the one who will protect you, the fiercest. Sometimes love finds you when you've stopped looking for it, and sometimes the best endings come from the worst beginnings. Thank you so much for watching this story. If you enjoyed it and haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our next emotional tale. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I love hearing from you all around the world. See you in the next. 3 months into their engagement, Maya discovered that planning a wedding when your fiancé was one of the most powerful men in the city came with unique challenges. The guest list alone required security clearance checks. The venue needed multiple exit strategies. And somehow, every vendor they contacted seemed to know exactly who Alessandro-chan was, which meant either exceptional service or polite refusals. We could always elope, Alessandro suggested one evening as Maya sat surrounded by fabric samples and catering menus. They were in his study, Sophia doing homework at the small table he'd installed specifically for her after-school visits. Maya looked up from her wedding planning chaos. You want to elope? I want you to be my wife without you having a nervous breakdown over flower arrangements. Sophia piped up from her math homework. Mama, what's elope? It means getting married without a big party, Maya explained. But I want to see you in a princess dress, Sophia protested. And I want to throw flowers. Alessandro smiled, meeting Maya's eyes. Then we have our answer. Princess dress and flower throwing it is. But the complications went deeper than wedding planning. Maya was learning to navigate Alessandro's world in ways she'd never anticipated. His legitimate businesses were thriving under her management, but she was also becoming aware of the other side. The late-night phone calls, the meetings she wasn't invited to, the respect that came from fear as much as admiration. One evening, while reviewing quarterly reports for the restaurant chain, Maya noticed discrepancies in the books. Cash deposits that didn't match reported sales. Payments to vendors she couldn't identify. When she brought it up with Alessandro, his expression grew carefully neutral. Some aspects of my business are compartmentalized, he said. For your protection and Sophia's. Maya set down her pen. I'm not naive, Alessandro. I know what you do. What I don't know is how much of it I'm helping to facilitate. Alessandro was quiet for a long moment. The restaurants are legitimate. Every dollar you manage is clean money. But yes, they also serve other purposes. Meeting places, safe houses, ways to move resources when needed. Maya absorbed this. Am I an accessory to crimes I don't know about? You're the woman I love who's making my legitimate businesses more profitable than they've ever been. Nothing you do puts you at legal risk. I made sure of that. But Maya's newfound position in Alessandro's world was attracting attention from unexpected quarters. Vincent had eventually come around, impressed by her business acumen and her obvious positive effect on Alessandro. But other associates were less accepting. The tension came to a head during a dinner party at the mansion. Alessandro was hosting several business partners, and Maya was playing the role of gracious hostess. She'd grown comfortable in these situations, her natural intelligence and charm winning over most of Alessandro's contacts. But Roberto Salvatore, an older man with interests in construction and labor unions, had been watching her with obvious disapproval all evening. Chun, he said during coffee, his voice carrying across the room. I have to ask, is this wise? Bringing an outsider so deep into family matters. Maya felt the room go silent. Alessandro's hand found hers under the table, a steady anchor. Maya isn't an outsider, Alessandro said, his voice pleasant but with an edge of warning. She's my fiancée and the mother of my daughter. Your stepdaughter, Roberto corrected. And forgive me, but she doesn't understand our traditions. Our ways. What happens when she decides she wants out? When she takes what she's learned to the authorities? Alessandro stood slowly, his movement making several other men shift uncomfortably. Roberto, I think you misunderstand the situation. Maya is family, and I protect family absolutely. Are you suggesting she's untrustworthy? I'm suggesting she's a liability, Roberto said, apparently not reading the dangerous shift in Alessandro's demeanor. A pretty face who doesn't know when to keep her mouth shut. That's when Maya spoke, her voice clear and calm. Mr. Salvatore, I understand your concerns. You've built something valuable, and you want to protect it. But I think you misunderstand my position here. I'm not an outsider looking in. I'm someone who chose this family, who chose this life, with full knowledge of what it means. She stood, moving to Alessandro's side. I manage $500 million in legitimate assets for this organization. I coordinate with lawyers, accountants, and government officials on a daily basis. I have security clearance that most people in this room don't have. If I were going to be a liability, don't you think it would have happened by now? Roberto's face flushed red. You think managing restaurants makes you one of us? I think loving Alessandro and Sophia makes me one of you, Maya replied. But managing those restaurants, and the real estate portfolio, and the import business, and the construction contracts makes me valuable. The question is whether you're wise enough to recognize an asset when you see one. Alessandro's smile was sharp with pride. Gentlemen, I think we're done here. Roberto, thank you for dinner. I trust you can see yourself out. After the guests left, Alessandro found Maya in Sophia's room, reading her a bedtime story. He waited until Sophia was asleep, then followed Maya to their bedroom. You were magnificent tonight, he said, pulling her into his arms. I was terrified, Maya admitted. But I meant what I said. I chose this. All of it. Even the parts that scare you. Especially the parts that scare me. She looked up at him. Alessandro, I need to know something. If things go wrong, if your world comes crashing down, what happens to Sophia? Alessandro cupped her face in his hands. I have contingency plans. Trusts set up in her name, clean money in offshore accounts. If something happens to me, you and Sophia disappear. New identities, new life, somewhere safe. You've already planned for that. The moment I realized I loved you both. His voice was soft but certain. You and Sophia are my priority, Maya. Everything else is just business. Their wedding day arrived in October, a perfect autumn afternoon with golden light filtering through the windows of the historic estate Alessandro had rented for the occasion. Maya had indeed gotten her princess dress, an elegant gown that made Sophia gasp with delight. Sophia herself was resplendent in a cream-colored flower girl dress, her curly hair adorned with baby's breath. The guest list was an interesting mix. Maya's mother, now in full remission and beaming with joy. Sophia's teacher, Mrs. Patterson, who had become a friend. Several of Alessandro's legitimate business contacts. And yes, some faces that Maya recognized from the more complicated aspects of Alessandro's life. But as Maya walked down the aisle, all of that faded away. There was only Alessandro, devastatingly handsome in his black tuxedo, looking at her as if she were the most precious thing in his world. Which, she realized, she was. The ceremony was conducted in both English and Italian, honoring Alessandro's heritage while ensuring everyone could understand. When the officiant asked if they took each other in sickness and health, for richer or poorer, Maya and Alessandro's eyes met with complete understanding. They'd already been through sickness and health. They'd already navigated the complexities of his wealth and her poverty. This was just making it official. Sophia's job was to present the rings, which she did with solemn 80-year-old dignity. But when Alessandro kissed Maya at the end of the ceremony, Sophia couldn't contain herself and let out a cheer that made everyone laugh. The reception was held in the estate's garden, lit by thousands of twinkling lights. Maya danced with Alessandro to an Italian love song his mother had supposedly loved. She danced with Sophia, who stood on her feet and giggled through the whole song. She even danced with Vincent, who had apparently designated himself as Sophia's unofficial uncle. But the most meaningful moment came during toasts. Alessandro stood, looking out over the assembled guests, and his voice carried clearly in the evening air. 2 years ago, I thought I knew what power looked like, he said. I thought it was fear, control, the ability to make people do what you want. But Maya taught me that real power is choosing to be vulnerable. It's protecting the people you love, not because you have to, but because you can't imagine a world without them. He turned to Maya, his eyes bright with emotion. You saw past the monster everyone else sees and found something worth loving. You made me believe I could be better than my worst instincts. And Sophia, his voice grew even softer. You taught me that family isn't just blood. It's choice. It's showing up every day and deciding to love each other. Maya was crying openly now, not caring about her makeup. When Alessandro sat down, she stood up. I didn't prepare a speech, she said, her voice carrying despite the tears. But I want everyone to know something. Alessandro didn't save me. We saved each other. He gave me safety when I had none. I gave him a reason to be the man his mother would have been proud of. And together, we gave Sophia a family. She raised her glass. To second chances. To love that transforms everything it touches. And to the family we chose. The honeymoon was supposed to be 2 weeks in Tuscany, a chance for the three of them to be together away from the complexities of Alessandro's empire. They made it 4 days before the call came. Alessandro was on the terrace of their villa, Sophia was chasing butterflies in the garden, and Maya was reading when his phone rang. She saw his expression change as he answered. When, he said simply. Then, how many? A pause. No, I'm coming back. Maya's stomach dropped. What happened? Someone hit 3 of our warehouses last night. Coordinated. Professional. Vincent says it was the Russians, testing our defenses. Maya looked out at Sophia, who was completely oblivious to the danger, laughing as she tried to catch a bright yellow butterfly. Do we need to come back with you? No. Alessandro's voice was firm. You and Sophia stay here. Extended honeymoon. I'll send additional security, but you're safer in Italy than anywhere near this mess. Maya stood up. Alessandro, no. We're not going to start our marriage with you shutting me out when things get dangerous. This isn't about shutting you out. This is about keeping you alive. They stared at each other across the terrace, the tension crackling between them. Finally, Maya spoke. We go home together, or we handle this together. But I'm not going to sit in an Italian villa wondering if my husband is alive while he handles business that affects our family. Alessandro ran a hand through his hair. Maya, You don't understand. If this escalates, if it becomes a war, then we face it as a family. Maya's voice was steady. You taught me that love means not backing down when things get scary. Well, this is me not backing down. Alessandro studied her face, then nodded slowly. We go home tomorrow. But when we get back, you and Sophia go to the safe house until this is resolved. Maya agreed, though she suspected that once they were back in New York, the situation would evolve beyond anyone's ability to control. The flight home was tense. Alessandro spent most of it on encrypted calls, coordinating with Vincent and other key members of his organization. Maya kept Sophia entertained with games and movies, but she could feel the weight of whatever was waiting for them. When they landed, instead of their usual car service, they were met by a convoy of black SUVs with bulletproof glass. Sophia, who had grown accustomed to Alessandro's security measures, took it in stride. But Maya felt the familiar knot of anxiety in her stomach. The safe house was a penthouse apartment in a building Alessandro owned, surrounded by security, both visible and invisible. It was comfortable, but felt like a cage. Maya tried to maintain normalcy for Sophia's sake, but after 3 days of being cooped up, she was going stir-crazy. That's when Vincent arrived with news. We identified the problem, he told Maya while Sophia was in the other room. It wasn't the Russians. It was Derek. Maya's blood went cold. Derek Thompson. My Derek. Your ex-boyfriend. Turns out prison gave him time to think. Time to make connections. He's been feeding information to our competitors, telling them about your relationship with Alessandro, mapping out our operations based on what he observed when he was stalking you. But Derek doesn't know anything about Alessandro's business. He knows you're important to Alessandro. He knows Sophia goes to school at St. Mary's. He knows you work out at the gym on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. He knows which grocery store you prefer. Vincent's expression was grim. He's been building a profile of Alessandro's vulnerabilities, and you and Sophia are at the center of it. Maya sank into a chair. So the warehouse attacks were a distraction. While we were focused on protecting business assets, Derek was planning something else. Something personal. Where is Alessandro? Handling Derek personally. Maya stood up abruptly. Vincent, I need you to take me to him. Now. Maya, that's not. Vincent. Maya's voice carried an authority she'd learned from watching Alessandro. I know you think you're protecting me by keeping me here. But Derek Thompson became dangerous because he obsessed over me. This ends with me, not with Alessandro going to war over me. Vincent studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Get Sophia's things. We're moving you both to the primary location. The primary location was Alessandro's mansion, now transformed into a fortress. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter. Bulletproof curtains covered the windows. The casual elegance Maya had grown to love was gone, replaced by the cold efficiency of a war zone. She found Alessandro in his study, surrounded by monitors showing security feeds, talking rapid-fire Italian into his phone. When he saw her, relief flashed across his face. You're supposed to be at the safe house. The safe house felt like a target. Maya moved to him, Sophia's hand in hers. We're safer with you. Alessandro looked down at Sophia, who was taking in the transformed mansion with wide eyes. Sophia, why don't you go to the kitchen? Mrs. Chun made your favorite cookies. After Sophia left, Alessandro turned back to Maya. Derek escaped from the transport vehicle, taking him to court this morning. He killed 2 guards. Maya, he's not the man you knew. Prison changed him. Made him focused. Dangerous. What's the plan? We find him before he finds you. But Maya was already shaking her head. Alessandro, he doesn't want to find me. He wants to hurt me. And the best way to hurt me is to hurt Sophia, or to hurt you. We're giving him exactly what he wants by hiding here. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we end this. Tonight. Maya's voice was steady, but Alessandro could see the fear she was trying to hide. Derek is obsessed with control. With winning. So we give him what he thinks he wants. We let him think he's won. Maya. Alessandro's voice held a warning. We set up a meet. Somewhere controlled. Somewhere you can manage all the variables. And we finish this. Alessandro stared at her. You want to use yourself as bait. I want to stop running. Maya met his eyes. Alessandro, I've been afraid my entire adult life. First of my ex-husband, then of Derek, then of losing you and Sophia. I'm tired of being afraid. And I'm tired of the people I love being in danger because of my past. Before Alessandro could respond, his phone rang. He glanced at the display, and his expression hardened. Derek, Alessandro answered, putting the call on speaker. Derek. Chun. Derek's voice was different. Harder. Prison had stripped away the bluster, leaving something cold and focused. I have to say, you've got quite the setup here. Very impressive. Where are you, Derek? Close enough. See, I spent 2 years thinking about you and Maya. About what you took from me. And I realized something. You didn't just take my woman. You took my life. Maya stepped closer to the phone. Derek, this is between you and me. Leave Alessandro out of it. Maya, baby. Derek's voice turned sickeningly sweet. There you are. Miss me. What do you want, Derek? What I've always wanted. You. But first, I want Chin to understand what it feels like to lose everything. The line went dead. Alessandro was already moving, barking orders into his radio. But Maya caught his arm. Wait. Alessandro, if we react now, if we turn this into a hunt, people get hurt. Innocent people. Your people. Then what do you suggest? We give him what he wants. Me. But on our terms. Over the next 6 hours, they planned meticulously. The meet would be at the restaurant where Maya had first told Alessandro about Derek. Public enough that Derek would feel confident, controlled enough that Alessandro's people could manage the situation. Vincent would coordinate external security. Alessandro would be inside but hidden, and Maya would face Derek, wearing a wire and protected by bulletproof vest hidden under her clothes. The hardest part was explaining to Sophia that Mama had to go handle some grown-up problems, but that Uncle Vincent would stay with her and Alessandro would bring Mama home safely. You promise, Mama? Sophia asked, clinging to Maya's hand. I promise, sweetheart. Maya knelt to Sophia's level. And you know what? After tonight, we won't have to worry about any of this anymore. We'll be a real family, safe and happy. Sophia nodded solemnly, then hugged Maya tightly. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby girl. The restaurant was closed for a private event, which meant Derek would expect a trap, but would come anyway. His ego wouldn't let him refuse the challenge. Maya arrived first, sitting at their old table by the window. Alessandro was positioned behind the bar, invisible but close enough to move if needed. Derek arrived exactly on time. He looked different, leaner, harder, his eyes holding a coldness that hadn't been there before. When he sat across from Maya, she had to fight not to flinch. You look good, Maya. Marriage suits you. What do you want, Derek? I want you to understand something. Derek leaned forward. I loved you, really loved you. And you threw me away for him. For money. For a life you thought was better. I left you because you were hurting me. I was trying to make you stronger. Derek's voice held no recognition of the contradiction. But you chose him instead. The rich guy who could give you everything I couldn't. Maya forced herself to stay calm. Derek, it was never about money. It was about respect. About kindness. About not being afraid in my own home. And now? Derek smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Are you afraid now? Yes. Maya's honesty seemed to surprise him. But not of you. I'm afraid for you. Derek, you've thrown away 8 years of your life on anger. Don't throw away the rest. Derek studied her face. You pity me. I remember loving you. Before you became someone who hurt people. For a moment, Derek's expression softened, and Maya saw a glimpse of the man he'd been before prison hardened him. Then it was gone. It's too late for that, Maya. I can't go back to who I was before. Prison changes you. Makes you realize that the only thing that matters is winning. Then you've already lost. Maya's voice was gentle but firm. Because winning isn't about taking things from other people. It's about building something beautiful with the people you love. Derek laughed, but it was a bitter sound. Philosophy from the Mafia princess. Does Chin know you're here? He knows I needed to face you. To end this cycle. And you think talking to me will end it? I think you have a choice. Maya leaned forward. You can keep letting anger control your life. Keep destroying everything you touch. Or you can choose to be better. To let this go and find something real to build your life around. Derek was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket, and Maya tensed, knowing Alessandro would be moving. But Derek pulled out a photograph. It was a picture of Maya and Sophia at the park, taken with a long-range lens. You see this? Derek said quietly. I've been watching you for months. I know every detail of your new life. Your daughter's schedule, your routines, your husband's weaknesses. Maya felt ice in her veins, but kept her voice steady. What's your point, Derek? My point is that I could have taken everything from you any time I wanted. But I didn't want to just hurt you. I wanted you to understand. To choose. Choose what? Him or her? Derek's smile was cold. You can come with me now, leave all this behind, and your daughter stays safe. Or you can stay with Chun and spend the rest of your life wondering when I'll decide to finish this. Maya looked at Derek, really looked at him, and saw something that made her unutterably sad. He was already dead inside. Prison hadn't just changed him. It had hollowed him out, left nothing but anger and obsession. Derek, she said softly, there's a third option, which is, you let this go. You walk away from here, leave the city, start over somewhere else. And I promise you, Alessandro won't come after you. We'll all just move on. Derek laughed again. You think I'm stupid, Maya? You think I don't know your husband is behind that bar right now, probably with a gun trained on my head. Maya didn't flinch. He is. But he won't use it unless you give him a reason to. And what reason would that be? If you try to hurt me. If you threaten Sophia. If you do anything except walk out that door and disappear from our lives. Derek leaned back in his chair. You've got balls, Maya. I'll give you that. I've got something to protect. Maya's voice was steady. That makes people braver than they think they are. Derek stared at her for a long moment, then stood up slowly. This isn't over, Maya. Yes, it is. Maya stood as well. It's over because I'm choosing for it to be over. You can accept that and move on, or you can keep fighting a war you've already lost. But either way, I'm done being afraid of you. Derek started to move toward her, and Maya heard the soft sound of Alessandro shifting behind the bar. But Derek stopped, something in Maya's expression giving him pause. You really love him, Derek said, and for the first time, his voice held something like genuine emotion. I really do. And he loves me. And Sophia loves us both. We're a family, Derek. Something you never let us be. Derek nodded slowly, then turned and walked toward the door. At the threshold, he paused. Take care of yourself, Maya. You too, Derek. After he left, Alessandro emerged from behind the bar, moving quickly to Maya's side. She was trembling but standing straight. Is it over? She asked. Alessandro pulled her into his arms. It's over. But 2 days later, they learned that Derek had been found in his motel room, dead from an apparent overdose. The police ruled it suicide, noting the empty bottle of pills and the note that simply said, "Some wars can't be won." Maya cried when she heard the news. Not for the man Derek had become, but for the man he might have been if he'd made different choices. Alessandro held her while she grieved, understanding that this was the final chapter of a story that had shaped too much of her life. A month later, life had settled back into its new rhythm. Maya was managing an expansion of Alessandro's restaurant chain into 3 new cities. Sophia was thriving in school and had started calling Alessandro Papa, which made him emotional every single time. Vincent had been promoted to handling more of the legitimate business operations, freeing Alessandro to focus on family. One evening, while Sophia was at a sleepover and Maya and Alessandro were enjoying a rare quiet night, Maya brought up something that had been on her mind. Alessandro, I want to start a foundation. What kind of foundation? For women and children escaping domestic violence. I want to create safe houses, legal aid, job training. Everything I wish I'd had when I was trying to leave Derek the first time. Alessandro was quiet for a moment. That would put a spotlight on us. On you. People would ask questions about your background, about how you know what these women need. Maya nodded. I know. But I also know that there are women out there right now living the life I lived. Afraid to leave because they don't know how they'll survive. Staying because they think they have no choice. I want them to know they have options. Alessandro smiled, the expression transforming his face. Then we start a foundation. Just like that. Maya, you've spent the last 2 years proving that you can handle anything this world throws at you. You've earned the right to change it. They spent the next 3 hours planning. Maya would be the public face of the foundation, using her story carefully edited to protect Alessandro's privacy, to advocate for legislative changes. Alessandro would provide funding and use his connections to ensure the foundation could operate without interference. Vincent would handle security for the safe houses, making sure they were truly safe. 6 months later, the Rodriguez Foundation opened its first shelter. Maya gave interviews to local news stations, carefully sharing her story of survival and recovery. She didn't mention Alessandro's real business, but she spoke openly about finding love after abuse, about building a family from choice rather than obligation. The night of the foundation's launch gala, Alessandro stood in their bedroom, adjusting his cufflinks while Maya put the finishing touches on her makeup. "Nervous?" he asked. "Terrified," Maya admitted. "But good terrified. Like the kind you feel before doing something important." Alessandro moved behind her, meeting her eyes in the mirror. "My mother would have loved you." "You think?" "I know. Maya, my mother spent her whole life as a victim. You chose to become a survivor. And now you're helping other women make that choice. She would have been so proud." Maya leaned back against him, feeling the solid strength of his presence. "We did something good, didn't we? We did something extraordinary. The gala was a success. Politicians, business leaders, and celebrities had all turned out to support the foundation." Maya gave a speech that moved several people to tears, talking about the moment she realized that love wasn't supposed to hurt, that protection wasn't supposed to feel like a cage. But the best moment came when Sophia, dressed in a junior bridesmaid-style gown, presented Maya with a bouquet of roses and announced to the entire ballroom that her mama was the bravest person in the whole world. Later that night, after the guests had gone home and Sophia was asleep, Maya and Alessandro sat on their balcony overlooking the city. The lights of New York stretched out below them, millions of people living their own complicated stories. "Do you ever miss it?" Maya asked. "The simplicity of your life before us." Alessandro considered this seriously. "Sometimes I miss the certainty. When it was just business, everything was black and white. Win or lose. Eliminate threats or be eliminated. And now everything is complicated. But complicated in the best way." He turned to look at her. "Maya, before you, I was surviving. Now I'm living." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city below. Maya thought about the journey that had brought them here, from that morning 2 years ago when Alessandro had seen the bruises on her face to tonight, when they'd launched a foundation that would help hundreds of women find their own paths to freedom. "Your mother was right. You know," Maya said finally. "About what? Love doesn't make us weak. It reminds us what we're fighting for." Alessandro smiled, pulling her closer. "Then we're fighting for the right things." 5 years later, Maya was reviewing applications for the Foundation Scholarship Program when her assistant buzzed her office. "Mrs. Chun, there's someone here to see you. She says her name is Jennifer, and she needs help." Maya looked up from her desk, seeing a young woman with a black eye and a familiar expression of desperate hope mixed with shame. "Send her in," Maya said, standing and smoothing her dress. "And please, hold my calls." When Jennifer walked into Maya's office, Maya saw herself 5 years ago, scared and alone and convinced she had no options. "Thank you for seeing me," Jennifer said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I heard your speech last year about the foundation. About second chances." Maya gestured to the comfortable chairs by the window, away from the formal desk. "Please, sit down. Tell me how we can help." As Jennifer began to tell her story, Maya felt the familiar mix of heartbreak and determination that had driven her work for the past 5 years. Every woman who walked through these doors was a reminder of where she'd come from and why the work mattered. Later, after Jennifer had left with a safe house placement, legal aid contact information, and a job training program application, Maya called Alessandro. "How's your day?" he asked, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "Meaningful," Maya replied. "How's Sophia's school presentation going?" "She got an A on her project about strong women in history." "Guess who she wrote about?" "Her teacher. Her mother." Alessandro's voice was warm with pride. "Maya, she wrote 10 pages about how you turned your life around and now help other women do the same. Her conclusion was that you're proof that heroes don't always wear capes." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. Sometimes she wondered if they'd done the right thing, bringing Sophia into their complicated world. But moments like this reminded her that they'd given Sophia something invaluable: the knowledge that people could change, that love could heal, that families could be built from choice and commitment rather than just blood. "I love you, Alessandro-chun," Maya said. "I love you, Maya-chun. Come home soon. Sophia wants to celebrate her A with your famous spaghetti and meatballs." Maya laughed, remembering that first dinner 2 years ago when Alessandro had sat in their cramped kitchen, listening to an 80-year-old talk about butterflies. Now Sophia was 13, tall and confident, and completely secure in her place in their unconventional family. "I'll be home in an hour," Maya promised. As she gathered her things and prepared to leave the office, Maya paused at the window overlooking the city. Somewhere out there were women like Jennifer, like she had been, trying to find the courage to leave dangerous situations. But somewhere out there were also women like her now, who had found their way to safety and were building new lives. Maya thought about Derek, who had chosen to let anger consume him rather than find a way to heal. She thought about Alessandro's mother, who had never gotten the chance to escape. She thought about Sophia, growing up knowing that love meant respect, that protection meant freedom, that family meant choice. And she thought about Alessandro, who had looked at a broken woman and seen someone worth saving, who had chosen love over fear, who had built something beautiful from the wreckage of their individual pasts. Sometimes the best endings, Maya reflected, come from the worst beginnings. Sometimes love finds you when you've stopped looking for it. And sometimes the person who seems most dangerous is actually the one who will protect you the fiercest. But mostly, Maya had learned that happy endings weren't really endings at all. They were beginnings, starts to new chapters, foundations for whatever came next. She locked her office, walked to the elevator, and headed home to her family. To Alessandro, who would have dinner waiting. To Sophia, who would want to tell her every detail about her school day. To a life that hadn't been perfect, but had been perfectly theirs. As the elevator descended, Maya smiled. Some stories, she realized, were worth fighting for. And some love was worth everything it took to build and protect it. She emerged into the late afternoon sunlight and headed home, ready for the next chapter of a story that was far from over. What did you think of Maya and Alessandro's complete journey? Did their love story give you hope? Could you feel how their family grew stronger through every challenge? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this epic tale of protection, transformation, and true love conquering all obstacles, smash that like button and subscribe for more emotional stories every week. Which was your favorite moment? Alessandro's first threat to Derek, Maya standing up to the business associates, their wedding day, or the foundation launch? Let me know what touched your heart most. Thanks for joining Maya and Alessandro on their incredible journey from darkness to light. See you in the next story.